Hello and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn, which is about permit to work systems in construction. So today I'm going to talk you through permit to work systems and what they are, why they matter, who should be issuing them, and what needs to be included. And the main point I want to make right from the start is that permits does not make the job safe to do itself. It confirms that the right controls have been planned, checked, communicated, authorised before the work starts. So this is not about paperwork safe. It's about making sure higher risk work is properly controlled. So by the end of this session, I want you to feel confident about when a permit to work is needed, what a good permit should include, and what your role is in following or managing one. So we'll look at practical construction examples, including hot works, confined spaces, excavations, and isolations. I also want you to be able to spot poor permit practice because if a permit is vague, copied, out of date, or not briefed properly, it's not going to do its job. So what do we mean by a permit to work system? In simple terms, it's a formal written permission system for work that needs extra controls, and this should tell us exactly what work is allowed, where it's happening, when it should happen, and what precautions have to be in place. The important thing to remember is that a permit is an authorisation and communication tool. It does not replace the risk assessments and method statements, or the planning or the supervision of the competence of the people doing the work. Permits are mainly used where the consequences of getting something wrong could be serious. They add another layer of checking and authorisation on top of normal site rules and method statements. That might be work that could cause fire, work in confined space, work near live services, electrical or mechanical isolation, or work that affects other trades nearby. The permit helps everybody understand what is happening, what controls are in place, and who has authorised the work to go ahead. So this is why permits matter. They stop high-risk work from starting until the task, location, timing, and controls have been checked. They also improve communication because the person issuing the permit and the people doing the work have to be clear about what has been agreed. Permits help coordinate activities between trades, access routes, isolation, and nearby work. They also create accountability. So because there is a record of who authorised the work, who accepted the conditions, and when the permit was closed, but the warning here is important, a permit system fails if it becomes just a tick box exercise. So here are some common examples of when a permit may be needed on a construction site. So hot works would include welding, cutting, grinding, or anything that creates sparks or heat. Confined spaces might include tanks, pits, chambers, or areas where access is restricted and the atmosphere can be dangerous. Excavations may need a permit where there are underground services, collapse risks, or access issues. We might also need permits for isolation, work at height like a roof or fragile surfaces, lifting operations, demolition, restricted areas, or access arrangements, or certain equipment use. The point of work is to follow the specific site rules because each client or project may require permits for different activities. I like to think of a permit process as a simple sequence. First, the work is planned and the risk assessed. Then the work area, people, equipment and controls are checked. After that, the permit is issued and the conditions are briefed so everyone understands what they are agreeing to. The work is then carried out and monitored, and if anything changes, like the task or the location, or even the weather, the people involved or the hazards the work should stop and the permit should be reviewed. Finally, the permit is closed and the area is confirmed as safe. The golden rule is no permit, no permitted work. A permit must be issued by someone who is both competent and authorised to issue it. Competent means they have the right knowledge, training, experience and understanding for the particular type of work. So authorised means the company or site has given them the authority to issue the permit. For example, a site manager, supervisor, facilities manager, or other responsible persons might issue a permit, but only if they are authorised and understand the risks. Competence has to match the work. Someone issuing a confined space permit needs to understand confined space hazards, monitoring, emergency arrangements and rescue requirements. What should actually be on a work permit form? So it should include the permit number and type, the exact location, a clear description of the work, the date and the time it starts, and when it expires. It should name the issuer, the receiver, the supervisor, and the works involved. It should refer to the relevant risk assessments and method statements, drawings or isolation plans. It also needs to set out the hazards, controls, personal protective equipment, barriers, signage, isolation, testing, emergency arrangements, signatures, handover requirements and closeout checks. So if the permit says something vague like general works, that's not good enough for a higher risk work task. So different permits have different checks. So a hot works, I would expect the controls around sparks, combustibles, fire extinguishers, a fire watch and post-work checks. For confined spaces, I would expect atmosphere testing, ventilation, supervision and a rescue plan. For excavations, I would be looking for service information, collapse prevention, safe access and edge protection. For electrical isolation, the key points are isolation, so lock off, tag out. Those testing before touch and controlled re-energization. The message is that we should not just use a generic form without thinking about the specific hazard of the job. So permits are live documents, not something we issue and then forget about. While the work is happening, the permit needs to be monitored. If the work stops, overruns or moves to a different area, a new hazard appears, or the permit needs to then be reviewed. If the work crosses shifts, the handover has to be clear so the next supervisor understands the status of the work and the remaining tasks. So closeout is just as important as issuing the permit because it confirms that the area has been made safe. For instance, like guards would be put back into place, and isolation are only removed when authorised, and any fire watch or post-work checks have been completed. So these are the kinds of mistakes that make permit systems ineffective. A permit might be issued without anyone actually inspecting a work area. The scope might be too vague, such as general works. Instead of saying exactly what is being done, a permit might be copied from a previous job without checking whether the conditions are the same. So workers might not be briefed properly, or the permit might be allowed to continue, even though conditions have changed. Another common problem is poor handover, monitoring or closeout. And the point I want to stress is that good permit control means checking the real workplace, not just completing the form. So imagine a subcontractor needs to grind metal near stored timber and packaging. So what type of permit would be needed? I would expect a hot works permit because grinding can create sparks and heat, and therefore combustible materials nearby could catch fire. So before work starts, I would want combustibles removed or protected, the area above and below checked, and suitable fire extinguishers available. The workers would need to be briefed and also personal protective equipment confirmed, sparks controlled and fire watch arranged. I would also want a site manager or supervisor on nearby trades and anyone affected by smoke, sparks and restricted access to know what's happening. So to wrap up, the key message is that permits are not paperwork for the sake of it. They are control systems for high risk tasks. A good permit helps make sure that the work has to be planned, checked, communicated, authorised, monitored and closed safely. If you see poor permit practices, challenge it. If the job changes, if the area is not safe, or if the controls are not in place, stop and ask for the permit to be reviewed before the work continues. Finally, if you want to check any details, use the company or client permit procedure, site rules and construction phase plan, and relevant risk assessments and method statements. I've also put up some guidance documents here, what you can find on the HSE website. Can give you a bit more of a deep dive into permit to work systems.